Before we begin, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because what you're about to hear might change the way you see every hardship in your life. They say when Allah loves you, He doesn't make life easier, He makes you stronger. Ibn Arabi wrote, "Every difficulty is a veil, behind it hides a greater mercy." So what if the pain you're facing right now isn't punishment, but preparation? What if your struggle is not the end, but the start of something divine? The first hidden blessing is purification. When Allah removes something from your life, a person, a plan, a comfort, He's not taking, He's cleansing. He's washing away attachments that distract you from Him. Your tears aren't weakness, they're the water that cleans your heart. The second blessing is patience. It doesn't arrive as peace at first, it grows through resistance. Each moment you endure without losing faith becomes a seed of light inside your soul. Ibn Arabi said, "Patience is not waiting for relief, it is finding Allah within the waiting." The third blessing is humility. Hardship softens pride, reminds you that control was never yours to begin with. You bow, not in defeat, but in recognition that everything comes from Him and returns to Him. And in that surrender, your soul breathes for the first time. The fourth blessing is detachment. When what you love is taken, your heart learns that nothing lasts except Allah. You stop clinging to what fades, and you start holding on to what's eternal. The fifth blessing is clarity. Trials have a way of burning away illusions. You begin to see who's real, what matters, and who has been there all along. The light you prayed for didn't come from the sky, it came from inside you, once your pain cracked the walls around your heart. The sixth blessing is transformation. The version of you that entered the hardship will not be the same one that comes out. You'll emerge softer, wiser, more anchored. Every wound becomes a doorway, not to despair, but to awakening. And the seventh blessing, the rarest of all, is nearness to Allah. Because in your lowest moments, when no one else could reach you, He did. You cried alone, but He heard every whisper. You fell, but He caught you. You thought you were breaking, but you were being rebuilt. Ibn Arabi said, Allah hides Himself in hardship so the heart may seek Him with sincerity. And when you finally see that, you stop asking why me, and start saying Alhamdulillah for choosing me. Because the truth is, blessings don't always come wrapped in ease. Sometimes, they come disguised as loss, silence, and struggle. But if you look closely, every hardship you've survived wasn't closing a door, it was guiding you home. Your pain was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to introduce you to the part of you that could only meet Allah through it. And when you begin to recognize those hidden blessings behind your hardships, something sacred changes inside you. You stop running from pain and start learning from it. You begin to see that Allah never burdens a soul without purpose, He refines it, elevates it, polishes it until it can carry the weight of His wisdom. Ibn Arabi said, "The wound is the place where light enters you." And you start to feel that light flicker in the very places you once thought were ruined. The blessings keep revealing themselves quietly. What once felt like loss now feels like liberation. What once brought tears now brings clarity. Every person who left made space for something truer. Every closed door became protection. And every sleepless night became a prayer you didn't know how to make with words. You realize that Allah doesn't punish by taking things away, He teaches by replacing illusions with truth. When He breaks your plans, it's because He's building your purpose. When He delays your answers, it's because He's deepening your faith. When He silences your world, it's because He wants to speak directly to your heart. And so the believer begins to live differently. You stop asking for an easy life, you start asking for a strong heart. You stop seeking comfort, you start seeking closeness. Every hardship becomes a conversation between you and Allah, a test not of suffering, but of recognition. Ibn Arabi wrote, "When the soul understands the mercy behind its trials, pain becomes worship. And that's when the transformation is complete." You look back at everything that broke you and whisper, "It was you all along, guiding, teaching, preparing." Because now you know the hidden blessings were never hiding from you. They were waiting for you to see with your heart instead of your eyes. And when that realization takes root, something deep within you shifts forever: the way you see pain, the way you breathe through loss, the way you wait in silence. You start to understand that every hardship was never random. It was a design written by the one who knows what you need better than you do. Ibn Arabi said, "The hand that takes from you is the same hand that gives, but only those who see with the heart recognize it." You begin to look back at your hardest days differently. The moments you thought you couldn't survive were the ones that taught you how to live. The heartbreaks that tore you apart built the strength that now holds you together. You realized that every no from Allah was a weight, and every loss was a redirection away from what would have harmed you, toward what would heal you. Each hardship becomes a mirror that shows you your true reflection, not the weak, fearful person you thought you were, but the believer Allah was shaping you to be. And through it all, He was silent not because He ignored you, but because He was working within you. The silence of Allah is never absence, it's craftsmanship. And then, one day, your heart feels lighter. You wake up in the same world that once hurt you now feels softer. You stop needing explanations because you finally trust the writer of your story. You realize that the hardship didn't end, you changed. You learned to walk through fire without burning because Allah became your coolness. You learned that peace doesn't come after the test, it lives inside the one who understands the purpose of it. Ibn Arabi wrote, "The believer does not ask for fewer trials, but for a heart so vast that trials become gardens." And that is where you arrive, in that sacred garden of patience, gratitude, and surrender, where pain no longer breaks you, it builds you. And you whisper to yourself, "Every hardship was a teacher, every tear was a prayer, every loss was love in disguise. And through it all Allah never left me." And as you walk deeper into that understanding, peace begins to bloom where sorrow once lived. You realize that the same road that once felt unbearable has now become sacred. Every scar, every night of tears, every silent prayer stitched into your soul like divine embroidery. Ibn Arabi said, "He tests you not to break you, but to reveal the strength He placed within you." Now, you finally see what He meant. All that pain was proof that Allah trusted you to carry His wisdom. You start to move differently. You no longer see struggle as something to escape, but as something to embrace with grace. When life bends you, you bow instead of breaking. When something leaves, you whisper Alhamdulillah instead of why, because you've seen too many times how every loss was protection, every delay was preparation, every silence was love disguised as patience. You begin to love the process even when it's painful, because you know what it leads to: closeness. True closeness. The kind of nearness to Allah that no comfort could ever give you. You start to realize that the sweetness of faith only comes after the bitterness of surrender. And when your soul reaches that stage, your prayers change. You no longer ask for an easy path, you ask for a heart that never leaves remembrance, no matter how hard the road gets. Ibn Arabi wrote, "The wise do not seek to avoid storms, they learn to dance in their rain." And that's where you are now, dancing through difficulty, radiant in patience, calm in surrender. You carry your pain like prayer beads, turning every ache into a Subhanallah, every tear into a Ya Rahman, every heartbeat into a La ilaha illallah. And one day, without realizing when it happened, you wake up and feel peace that no storm can take away. Because now you know Allah was never punishing you. He was rebuilding you. He was emptying your hands so He could fill your heart. And everything you thought you lost was only making room for him. And when that peace finally settles deep inside you, you begin to understand what true freedom feels like, not freedom from pain, but freedom through it. You are no longer chained by fear of what might happen, because you know now that everything that happens is for you, not against you. Ibn Arabi said, "The one who trusts Allah sees beauty even in the breaking." And now you see that beauty everywhere, in the delays, in the endings, in the very things that once made you cry. You notice that your heart has grown quiet. It no longer rushes for answers, no longer trembles at uncertainty. It beats softly, steadily, whispering, "Hasbi Allah, Allah is enough for me." You begin to live lighter. You no longer carry people's opinions, or the weight of expectations. You've learned to let go, not out of indifference, but out of faith. And in that stillness, blessings begin to unfold again, the kind you no longer chase, but attract. The right people find you, the right doors open, and what's meant for you flows effortlessly. Because now, you're aligned with something greater than yourself, the rhythm of divine timing. The hardships that once felt like punishment now feel like training. You understand that Allah wasn't taking you apart, He was teaching you how to rebuild correctly. You see how every heartbreak taught compassion, every failure taught humility, every waiting season taught trust. Nothing was wasted. Every difficulty carved space for light to enter. Ibn Arabi said, "If you wish to see the face of mercy, look at what your pain made you become." And so you look and you see it. You see the patience you never had before, the faith that doesn't waver, the peace that doesn't depend on circumstance. You see how every hardship was a lesson in disguise, every tear a seed, every silence a conversation between you and your Lord. And finally, you understand the 7 hidden blessings were never far away. They were growing quietly within you, waiting for the day your heart would be soft enough to recognize them. And when that realization takes hold, your soul finally exhales. You stop looking for signs outside yourself because you've become the sign, living proof that hardship is not destruction but transformation. You realize that every time life pushed you to your knees, Allah was teaching you how to pray deeper, not weaker. Ibn Arabi said, "The fall of the believer is only a bow before his Lord." And now, even your wounds feel sacred, because they remind you where your strength was born. You begin to move through life with gentleness, not because you're fragile, but because you've seen what power hides behind softness. You no longer rush to control anything, you let it unfold. You don't cling to people or outcomes, your hands stay open, ready to receive, ready to release. That's the freedom that comes after surrender. Nothing owns you anymore except your faith. The world may still test you, but it can't shake you. Disappointment arrives, and you smile. Uncertainty lingers, and you stay patient. You've learned that peace doesn't mean no storms, it means having Allah in the middle of one. And when you remember Him, even chaos starts to bow. You start recognizing the blessings as they happen, the small ones, quiet ones, invisible ones. The conversation that comforted you, the delay that protected you, the closed door that saved your soul. You realize that the 7 blessings behind hardship aren't waiting at the end of the tunnel, they appear inside the tunnel, one by one, as you walk through it. And one night, under the calm of prayer, your heart whispers, "Ya Allah, you didn't change my world, you changed my vision." Because now you see everything differently. You no longer ask to be spared from hardship, you ask to see the mercy within it. You no longer pray for an easy path, you pray to walk any path with you beside me. That's when the journey completes. The tests don't stop, but the fear does. The tears don't disappear, but they no longer taste bitter. You've learned the greatest secret of all, that what breaks you today is only shaping you for tomorrow. And so, with every breath, You whisper gratitude, Alhamdulillah, for the pain, for the patience, for the lessons, for the light. Because now you know, every hardship was never against you. It was Allah calling you closer, polishing your heart, and preparing you to shine. And as that truth becomes the rhythm of your heart, your whole existence changes. You wake up each morning not fearing what the day will bring, but trusting that whatever it holds was written for your growth. You look at the people around you, the ones who once hurt you, and instead of resentment, you feel mercy. Ibn Arabi said, "The one who sees Allah in all things no longer sees enemies, only teachers." And so you begin to see teachers everywhere, in the pain, in the silence, even in your own mistakes. Your hardships no longer define you, they refine you. You wear your scars not as reminders of loss but as medals of survival. You realize that every hardship was a language, and now you're fluent in its meaning. You've learned to read between the lines of pain and find the whispers of divine wisdom there. You understand that Allah didn't just want you to survive, He wanted you to awaken. And with awakening comes serenity, a peace so steady that even when everything around you crumbles, you don't. You've built your home within remembrance. You no longer need validation, approval, or explanation. You need only connection to Allah, to truth, to the quiet stillness that lives inside your heart. And so, when a new trial appears, as it always will, you no longer flinch. You take a deep breath, place your hand over your chest, and say, "Bismillah, there's a blessing hiding here too." Because you've seen enough to know that everything Allah sends carries a gift. Maybe not the one you wanted, but always the one you needed. Ibn Arabi wrote, "The path of hardship is not punishment, it is the way the soul learns to return." You've returned now, to trust, to peace, to Him. You've stopped asking to be spared and started asking to be strengthened. You've stopped chasing the light and realized you've become it. And as you walk through life now, calm and grounded, you smile at the memories of what once broke you. Because you know, nothing truly broke you. It was all a gentle unmaking, a holy undoing, so that what Allah built afterward would never fall again. And in that final calm, you understand everything, not with the mind, but with the soul. The storm that once frightened you now feels like mercy, the loss that shattered you now feels like love. Every unanswered prayer was a doorway, every silence a message, every hardship a thread in the fabric of your destiny. Ibn Arabi said, "When the heart understands divine wisdom, it stops crying for what is gone and starts bowing for what remains." And that's where you stand now, not broken, but bowed, not defeated, but devoted. You look back and realize that every step, even the painful ones, led you closer to Him. The moments you thought were endings were only beginnings dressed as loss. You see now that Allah never abandoned you, He was rewriting you. Every tear you shed watered the garden of patience blooming inside your chest. Every fall you took taught you how to rise with grace. And now, your heart carries a stillness that cannot be shaken. You no longer fear hardship, because you've walked through it and found Allah waiting there. You no longer beg for ease, because you've tasted the sweetness of surrender. You no longer ask for signs, because you've become a living reminder that pain, too, can be holy. You whisper softly, "Ya Allah, thank you for every loss that led me to truth, for every trial that taught me to trust, for every hardship that revealed your mercy." And as you say those words, peace descends, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstance, the kind that feels like home. That's when you realize the greatest blessing of all. It was never about surviving the hardship, it was about meeting Allah within it. And when you do, everything else fades. And all that remains is light.